All right, guys, welcome to Reef-A-Palooza. We're here today in Orlando showing you guys a little bit around the show and all the corals that are going to be here. Let's go. All right, guys, so first up we have Miami Coral Co. Alex over there has been in the hobby for 12 years, and he's been in business for 3 years. As you can tell, he's got some beautiful meats and trachees, as well as some nice zoas. You can see this Sunny D combo zoa there, as well as this beautiful Yuma and bouncing Rhodactis mushroom. They are located in Miami, and they are all about aquaculturing SPS corals. They also had probably my favorite piece at their booth, which was this beautiful massive chalice colony. They also had some really unique looking acans with some very interesting colors that you don't see a lot. Then over in this tank they had some of their Euphyllia, so some torches in the back there, as well as some hammers and frog spawns. There were also some Belastos over on the right side there with some Fabias, some Zoas, all mixed together with a few Ganis, some candy canes, as well as some more hammers. You can see some nice Space Invader Pictinias here, some nice mini colonies, some chalices, a couple of Holy Grail Micromusas, some larger acan colonies, Raja Rampage chalice, along with some of the higher end torches, so some Holy Grails, some cotton candies, some dragon souls, some dragon tamers, some New York Nicks, a nice variety of higher end pieces there. In this tank were some more of these Zoas. You can see they have a ton of polyps on these frags, very chunky. Some acan mini colonies up front, some Belasto Merletis, as well as some Monteporas here, the different various encrusters as well, along with some chalices and some Fabias. You can see this rack was full of $25 Zoas. This is really nice to see at a bigger show where prices can tend to be a little bit higher, that there are still definitely some deals to be had, and you'll see throughout the rest of the show there definitely were some pretty good deals. Next up is Tide Aquaculture. Mitchell and Mason are out of Central Florida, and they have been in the hobbies for over 12 years. They mainly focus on aquaculture. As you can see, they have a ton of these aquaculture frags, from encrusters to acans to zoas, all super fluffy and healthy. They mainly focus on doing their online store as well as going to shows. You can find these guys all over the country. I know that I've seen them as far up as North Carolina, and I'm sure they go to even more shows, but they definitely hit pretty much every show in Florida. You can see they had some fantastic SPS here, some millies, some tenuouses, all different varieties of species that were all super fluffy and had fantastic polyp extension. They also had some really beautiful hammers over here, some holograms, some golds. In the other tank they had some softies, some leathers, some xenia, as well as some more zoas, a few ganis and chalices, as well as some mushrooms and button schoolies with some of their torches in the back there, as well as some frog spawns in the back of this rack with some Recordias and other encrusters there. Next up is Coral King Allen over there, the king of coral. He is located in Gainesville, Florida, and he has only been in the hobby for about 4 years now, and he has been in business for about 2, but he definitely has brought in some really beautiful pieces. You can see the rainbow chalices there, some fantastic scolies as well. These pieces were really unique, and he definitely brings in a lot of weird stuff. You can see he's got a bunch of zoas on this rack here. In the center rack were some acans, as well as some Belastos on the back half, with some candy canes hiding back there. There were also some Gani pucks, as well as some different encrusters. This acan echinata was definitely really unique, and those pinkish orange eyes definitely made it stand out. In this tank were some of his Euphyllia. You can see he's got some hammers, some frammers, as well as some frog spawns and Yaya mensis. He's got a couple of wall frog spawns there. Accompanying those in the center were some wall hammers and some bubble corals and some torches. He actually had one of the nicest pieces at the show, which was this beautiful grafted torch. This is a piece that was absolutely exquisite. There were a couple of other ones at the show, But they didn't have this amount of cotton candy torch. It was mostly the purple torch with a little bit of that. This is the Yerpal Tang, a yellow purple tank hybrid that was super neat to see, especially here at the show. Next up is Living Reef Orlando. They've been in business for over a decade now in Orlando, of course. They definitely specialize in aquaculturing SPS. You can see they have a massive selection of nice chunky frags, not only on their website, but also at their retail store in Orlando. So not too far of a drive for them, but they definitely do a lot of shows. I know I've seen them at shows in places like South Carolina. So they definitely make the trip for certain shows. You can see they also had some beautiful mushrooms in the center there, along with some softies, some daisy polyps, some clove polyps, some leathers, some toadstools, different varieties there. On this left side of the rack, they had some of the favias that they aquaculture. You can see they have a nice mix of colors, along with some of the encrusters, some stylistinellas, some hydnophoras, and some cyphastrias over on this side. There are also a few freak hair lithos and some daisy cutter stylos and some Looney Tunes stylos, which was a little more unique to see. This rack had some chalices on it. Again, they have a nice variety of chalices, and they're all super chunky and healthy frags because they all are aquacultured over there at their farm behind their retail store. In this tank were some acans as well as some button scolies, some really unique looking colors there. There were also some Wilsoni frags and some acan bowerbankies, along with some Belastos that had some really nice colors to them, and some Holy Grail micro mousses there. This rack had some of their Ghanies on here, some of their cultured ones like the LRO cotton candy, as well as some that are more name brand like the Laffy Taffy Ghani here. But they were all really happy and healthy, as you can tell, and that's mainly because they're farmed. In this rack were some of their hammers. They had some splattered hammers, some gold hammers, a few of the Aussie orange stem hammers that look really nice and fat. They also had some frog spawns and Yaya mensises over on this side. You can see a nice variety of coloration there. Some SPS and some Zoas up front on this rack that they also grow out and culture. And this beautiful Chicago sunburst that didn't really have enough space to really flop out and show its color. Nice orange frog spawn there. In this tank were some of their torches. You can see they had a nice variety of different colors, some golds, some OG grails, as well as some cotton candies, some yellow tip torches, and some purple torches. I really like these plate corals. They were orange with some green splattering that really made them stand out. Here you can see the ASD Holy Grail torches that had some really great pop to them and almost glowed in person. They were a little closed up, but they definitely looked really nice. They also had a nice collection of trachees here. You can see they have some nice plump trachees that were ready to fill up someone's sand bed. And I know they definitely had a few that were taken home. This was probably one of my favorite pieces in their booth. They had this beautiful peach ring trachea that really stood out, especially next to some of the green and blue trachees. It was definitely a beautiful piece. They also had some acanthophilias along with some cinerinas. That all had really beautiful coloration. They even had some indophilias, which is kind of like a mix between a cinerina and an acanthophilia. Got Blue Seas Aquariums. These guys had a bunch of different corals. You can see all the different frog spawns, hammers, and torches they've got here. They also had some Montes, as well as some mushrooms and some encrusting favias there. See more torches, as well as some button scolies and some little mushroom rocks there with a few on them. Next up, we've got Reef Pro. He has a bunch of different rock flowers out and also some rainbow bubble tip anemones. These guys were definitely really popular and super colorful, even in the little cups. He also had this massive bowerbanky along with some Alveopora and Goniopora colonies and some Zoa frags, along with some mushroom frags, some Blasto frags, some torches, and some nicely encrusted Gani frags. In the other tank here, there were some nice shrooms up front, some grafted digis, and a bunch of other nice chunky SPS that were really nicely encrusted onto the plugs. Very nice presentation overall, and some nice rainbow chalices on little tiles there with some good size to them and some good splattering as well. There were also some rainbow splice frags there, some of the grafted millies, along with some really fuzzy milliporas and tenuouses here. You can see this Walt Disney had incredible extension. Are located in West Palm Beach, Florida, and they have 17 years of experience, and they definitely specialize in SPS. And all these frags are fully aquacultured. They also have their own reefing supplements. You can see their calcium and alkalinity 2-part solution there. Next up, we've got Coral Fixation. Sarah and Steve over there have 12 years of experience in the hobby. They are out of DeLand, Florida, and they've got some really beautiful Chicago and Colorado sunburst anemones that they've cultured in the back there, along with some frog spawns, some beautiful bower bankies, these really nice blastos here with some very vibrant color. You can see some of the bounce mushrooms there. They've got a little mini colony of the bounce mushrooms with some fat bubbles on them. Those guys are definitely super happy and splitting like crazy. See these super plump rainbow acans here. These heads are super juicy and definitely have been eating well. Next up, they had some of their bigger pieces like some of the scolies and trachees. They had a ton of different color varieties, so no matter kind of what colors you were looking for, they probably had them. You can see some really unique orangish scolies there, as well as some differently shaped trachees, even a couple of plate corals there, and some nice larger Ghani colonies, which are a little more uncommon to find, especially at shows, just because they take up so much space. Next up, we have zoanthids.com and ultra corals. He always has some really beautiful pieces and definitely did not disappoint this time. Brandon and Holly have 20 years of experience, and they are out of Utah. They are obviously known for their zoanthids. They have been in the game for a very long time. I remember going on their site for zoanthid identification years and years ago when I was newer in the hobby, and they are still a really great resource to this day. You can see a ton of different varieties of zoas, of course, along with some other really unique corals, especially up front. There were some really beautiful pieces. You can see all the different zoas and even some encrusters and some mushrooms there. Also have this colorful Colorado sunburst, along with some Ghanis over there, and these really cool bower banky acans that were absolutely beautiful. Next up, we have Unlimited Coral Color Corals. They are out of Houston, Texas. Chris has been in the hobby for 11 years, and they specialize in pretty much everything. They always bring a little bit of everything, and they actually usually just go to shows. They're primarily shows. You see these guys all over the country. I've seen them in Reef Stock Denver, Orlando, Florida. They really travel all over the country and bring some fantastic corals like this beautiful long tentacle plate coral. You see some Ghanis here as well, some larger, chunkier pieces. A lot of mixture of smaller frags that are really well encrusted and a little bit larger colonies. You can see some beautiful Recordia mushrooms there, along with some Montiporas, a grafted Leptostrea, and some Cyphastrias, a few Zoas mixed in, as well as some larger torch colonies here if you're looking to pick up a bigger piece, and some hammer mini colonies and some torch frags there. They had quite a few Holy Grail torch varieties. This one was very colorful. The Dragon Soul there was almost glowing, and some larger Zoa colonies. See a nice trachea there, as well as a massive meat coral that had a really unique coloration, along with this other one up here and the Scenerina. These acanthos were really interestingly patterned. They weren't the traditional red and green, but they had a lot more varieties of colors and really interesting, like this icy blue and orange one, as well as this red trachea here. You can see these guys were super plump and really fat and happy. They were all sort of flopped out all over the rack. Also some nice mushrooms here, some really beautiful Yumas, some Redactuses, some Blasto colonies. You can see that nice Iron Man colony there.
some Ghanies, as well as quite a few different, also some beautiful Zoas here, and some nice aquaculture Ghanies. See, they had some high-end ones like the Strats and the Hallucinations, but also some more standard ones like some of the Bloodshots and the Bowtie Blasters. Some nice encrusters back there, which I love to see, and some hammers, along with some beautiful, beautiful mushrooms. You see some jawbreakers, as well as this, some more of the Acan Echinatas, which are a little more uncommon to see. You don't get to see these guys all the time. Some chalices as well, and some other Micromusa acans, Diacerius plates, and some more torches. Really nice extension on the torches here, and a nice variety of colors. A lot of different ones. There weren't really too many that were the same. They were all kind of different and had some unique coloration to them. On this side, there were some elegances along with some wall frog spawns, some Acan Echinata colonies, and nice big Symphilia there with some nice yellow and red coloration on it. Next up, we had Southeast Reef. They have been open for 3 years now. Dominic has been in the hobby for 8 years, and they are located in Green Coves Spring in Florida, and they specialize in Euphilia and torches. As you can see, some really nice fluffy and happy torches here. Some gold torches, as well as some purple and green torches. You can see some nice neon green centers on some of these guys, and the pink tips on that Rapunzel back there look absolutely fantastic. As well as you can see some of the hammers and button scullies, as well as some of the mushrooms. This one was really nice and had really brilliant and bright coloration on it. There were also some larger Zoopucks and some unique Blastos, like these kind of whitish yellow ones. Some more Zoas here, some of the Salted Agaves, the Bob Marleys, a lot of different varieties of those. Also some Chalices and Montes, which is always nice to see. Some Lobos up front here, and some Scenarinas as well. Some nice Acans and Duncans, Cyphastrias, even a couple Digitatas, some larger wall hammers and frog spawns there. Beautiful Wilson eye here. This red has a very brilliant yellow coloration to it. Some Acan mini colonies, as well as some Ghani colonies, Stylophora colony there, and some Scolies. Next up, we've got Aquatic Realm International. Sutan has been in the hobby for over 20 years. He is a wholesaler, and he also does shows, and he is located in Dallas, Texas. You can see he's got a really nice variety of corals. He's got mushrooms, chalices, montes. He is a wholesaler, but he actually does grow out a lot of his own corals, which is really nice to see. He's got these super fluffy and chunky Gonioporas there, as well as some beautiful Candy Crush mushrooms in the back there. Those jawbreakers are really well splattered and have some great contrast to them. You can see some more of his aquaculture corals here, some of the encrusters, Favias, Leptostreas. On this side were some of the torches, as well as some octospawns and some hammers. Some frog spawns were also in there. Some larger Zoa colonies, as well as some chalice colonies. A few of the hammer bouquets, and a nice chunky mushroom and plate coral there. Some elegances, and some trachees and acanthophilias over on that backside. Next up, we had Sean from Cardinal Aquariums. Sean has been in the hobby for over 30 years. They are a retail shop that's been open for about 3 or 4 years, and they are out of Clearwater, Florida. You can see they farm a lot of their own corals, and Sean has actually participated in spawning corals down in Florida at Moat Marine, a laboratory over on the coast. They are very specialized, and you can see that he really enjoys aquaculture, and now he does it for a living. You can see these beautiful pieces that are nicely grown out. You can see the elegances there, a ton of different torches. He really takes the time to care for these corals, and it really shows based on the coloration and the health of the corals. Long tentacle plate coral, absolutely beautiful. Really nice extension on those guys, as well as some meats, some trachees. This piece was definitely my favorite, the chalice down there. Really beautiful and nicely encrusted. Also had some hammers. You can see some of the holograms there, some framers, and some gold torches in the back of that rack. This tank was some softies as well as some LPS. You can see some leathers in the back and front there, as well as some clams on this side of the tank. And this beautiful trachea with the green and pink on it. Some acroporas on this left side of the tank. You can see there's also various SPS, some Montes, some grafted pieces, and some Merletti Blastos in the back, along with a little starfish. Next up, we have Coral Explorers. Wilson has been in the hobby for over 20 years and is located in Los Angeles, California, making quite a trip for Reef-A-Palooza. He had this really nice Acanthophilia along with some Zoas on that rock there, and this beautiful Pictinia with a really interesting coloration on it. There's some frog spawns and octo spawns here, and some more bigger pieces like that mushroom rock, and some Symphilias, along with this nice trachea with this pink outline around the blue. He had a ton of different acants, and again, some really nice deals. You can get these chunky acants. Over at his booth, he had quite a few, along with some more hammers in the back and some mushrooms. He had some of the Recordias and some frags of some Pictinias and Lobos, along with those nice long tentacle leathers. Here he had a nice sun-kissed bounce with 2 mushrooms on it with some good bubbling. Some acans on the right there, and some rainbow acans as well. Some of these Ganies up front, and another Symphilia over on that left side. Definitely a good amount of Symphilias, a coral that you don't really get to see a lot because they're not super popular. They don't grow super fast. You can't really frag them, but they are magnificent pieces that really do stand out in a display tank. He had quite a few different Zoas and mushrooms. There were some more bounces there. Next up, we have Underwater World. Jason has been in the hobby for over 30 years, and he does service and also has a store in Houston, Texas. He had a nice assortment of mushrooms. He had some jawbreakers, some bounce mushrooms. You can see a bunch of different colorations here. He also had some nice Wilson eyes up front, some button scolies, some acros, some acans in the back there, as well as some plate corals that were nice and chunky up front. You can see this beautiful Diasarius plate. Really nice coloration there. This plate was actually featured in my reef stock video at zoanthus.com. It was a beautiful piece, and Jason picked it up. You can see some acanthos there, and then he's got torches over here in this tank. You can see some of the cotton candies, some of the dragons, souls, some of the golds in the back there. Some nice bright coloration to them. See, also some of the hammers, purple tip, the greens, some of the splatters, as well as some of the gold hammers there. Some alveoporas up front, some octos and frog spawns, and some more of the torches in the back there. Next up, we have 7 Seas Aquatics. Brandon has been in the hobby for 5 years, and they have a storefront in Cape Coral, Florida. They are a retail store, and they have a really unique booth that no one else really seemed to have anything similar to. They had a kind of stacked system where there were multiple layers and kind of corals all throughout. So you can see this one had some torches and some frog spawns. Next to those guys were some acroporas and montipora digitatas, also some chalices. You can see the extension on some of the SPS there, and some of the encrusters over on this side. Some chalices there as well. Next up, on the upper layer, you had some of the bigger pieces, so Acanthophilias, some of the Lobos, Trachees, some of the plate corals, as well as some Seniorinas and some Scolies over here on this right side. Some chalice colonies and a bowerbanky. Next up, we have Kung Fu corals. Now, Danny has been in the hobby for over 30 years. He's from San Diego, California, and they are infamous for their KFC dip. They specialize in importing Euphilia and have a retail storefront. You can see this beautiful magic carpet mushroom, very chunky piece there. Also had a bunch of different acans that were nice and fluffy. Some of the Asian acants that are a little harder to find. You don't see all the time. We have a few available on our site right now, but they are pretty limited, unfortunately. Really beautiful rainbow acanthophilia there with that yellow coming up. I haven't really seen one with coloration like that, so it was really unique and cool to see. There's some Wilsonii frags there, along with some chunkier Ghani frags that were a little bigger and very nicely encrusted. There were also some hologram hammers over here, really beautiful pieces, along with some other hammers, some golds, some colorations that I haven't seen too frequently, as well as some fatter heads like Aussies. There were more torches in this tank, some of the cotton candies, the dragon souls, a few of the dragon tamers as well, some New York Nicks, some OG Holy Grails, as well as some ASD Holy Grails. Really just a fantastic display of kind of all the different torches in the hobby for the most part. There were very few varieties that were missing from his tank. He even had some Rapunzels in there, some of the banana grails. Really beautiful corals that he had. You can tell why people go to him and use his dipping method for Euphyllia. These guys look super healthy, and you can tell they're not being irritated by any pests or anything. He also had some Scolies and some Yumas, as well as some Jawbreakers in the little basket there on the left side. Next up, we have Top Tier Aquatics. They are run by Vincent and Katie, and they've been open for over 20 years now. They are located in Los Angeles, California. They specialize in high-end zoas, and they also have an online store. So they had some torches over here with some Holy Grails, some Ghanis, as well as some mushrooms in the back there. You can see that Powerball bounce and the Candy Crush Jawbreaker. Nice magic carpet at this booth as well. And you can see some of the Monties and Chalices, and of course the Zoas that they are known for. Really nice fat polyps there. Also had some Blastos along with the hammers there up front. Also had this really beautiful Doughboy and these Strats that were a little bit of a different morph. They had more thicker lines compared to the traditional Strats here that have some of the splattering and the striations that the other variety, the morph, doesn't, which makes it stand out a lot more. This framer was absolutely beautiful and had some of the deepest golds that I've ever seen in a piece like that. Next up, we have Combat Corals. They are run by Hugo and have been open for over 6 years now. They are located in Phoenix, Arizona, and they are an online store, and they go to coral shows. And Hugo is actually active duty military. He had quite a few different varieties of pieces, some hammers up front there, some torches in the back, some golds, and he had quite a few 2 to 3 headed pieces, which was nicer to see. Some of the bigger pieces there if people were looking for something with a little more size to it. Also had some encrusters on the left side there and some wall hammers up front. In the other tank, he had some candy canes, some Blastos, some Duncans, and some Zoas there. A lot of beginner-friendly pieces, just like these acants that like to sit in lower light and get nice and fluffy. Also had some Ghanis up front here. Next up was OMG Jesus Coral. I've actually bought a few corals from him over the years. Jesus has 20 years of experience and is in Gardenia, Los Angeles, and he goes to coral shows. He has quite a few nice pieces. You can see the beautiful rock flowers in the back there in those cups with some great colors that were almost glowing out of the tanks. Some nice fat acans, as well as a Parascolemia, which is a piece that you don't really get to see too often. Some Wilsonii frags up front there, and some Zoas in the center. This Parascolemia had absolutely fantastic color, and it's a piece you don't really see too often. Really nice to see something unique like that. This biohazard bounce was absolutely insane. Some of the nicest bubbling I've ever seen on one of those guys. Also some more bounce and Yuma mushrooms behind the chalices and little Blasto gardens. Also had some single head Blastos and some Ghanis up front here, along with some Alveoporas In the other tank on the other side, he had some Scenarinas, some Lobos, a little double Scenarina graft that's growing in, along with some of those nice orange and blue Lobos, some Scolies, as well as this Master Scolie that had a lot of deep purple that created some really nice contrast. Also, some nice Trachees back here, and this big Acanthophilia. Some more rock flowers and some torches in this tank, along with some of the other Euphilia, like some of the hammers, frog spawns, some of the octo spawns. You can see this rock flower had some really cool coloration with the green and yellow there. Next up, we've got Coral Exotic. With 12 years in the hobby, Tim has been in it for a long time. He had some absolutely gorgeous Scolies in the back here. This yellow and orange, green, this one with the yellow there, and this Master all had fantastic coloration. Also had some beautiful Favias, a piece that doesn't get enough appreciation in my opinion. They are located in Northern California, and they specialize in rainbow acans, and as you can see, he had a ton of them. Had some really beautiful coloration to them that is not just super bright and colorful, but also really unique. He also had some mushrooms over here up front, some bounces, and you can see why he specializes in rainbow acans. These were some of the most unique and beautiful I've ever seen. This piece was definitely my favorite one out of his tank. That one was just super bright. But there are a ton of beautiful rainbow acans, and hopefully people stocking up their acan gardens with some really beautiful pieces to grow out. You can see he also had some nice rainbow chalices, and of course some more rainbow acans. Nice Powerball bounce there with a Stratosphere Zoa. That acan colony was absolutely insane. One of the craziest acans I've ever seen since I've been in the hobby. Also had some Blastos and some more acans, of course, some of the Ironmans, as well as some more rainbows up front there. That Ironman looked really good and has super deep coloration you don't always see. Also had some OG bounces up front there with some other jawbreakers and bounce mushrooms throughout there. He had some torches in this tank. Nice variety of cotton candies, joker torches, golds, even some green tip torches, and those banana grails, which are probably my favorite torch right now. Also had some frog spawns and hammers up here, some hologram hammers, some of those rainbows there, really nice coloration, and some zoas. He had a nice variety of zoas, not too many duplicates, just enough for people who are looking for a smaller piece or a bigger piece to get a lot of high-end zoas that were nice and plump. You can see the Stratosphere zoas there, nice and chunky, which is great to see. And then on this side, he had some of his acroporas, like his tenuous, and some other varieties there that are all super fluffed out. I really love seeing pop extension on these guys, especially at shows. Now, Vu over at Mythical Corals, we got to see last year. He is famous for the bounce jawbreaker mushrooms. He also has some beautiful sticks. He is located in Dallas, Texas, and grows all of his own corals. These pieces are absolutely beautiful. As you can tell, they not only have a ton of coloration, but they also have those bouncing bubbles. The smaller pieces won't really get it, but the bigger ones definitely do and look absolutely insane. Some of the coolest looking mushrooms in the entire hobby. He has a very interesting technique where he lights his tanks from the bottom, and that could be why they bounce, but no one is really sure why they bounce. It also could be an infection or some sort of mutation. But whatever it is, it definitely makes them look beautiful. He had some Asian acans as well as some Holy Grail micromusas, some Holy Grail torches here, some Joker torches, some cotton candy torches, as well as some gold torches, some of the OG bounce mushrooms here, some really fat pieces there, and you can see here the bouncing jawbreakers. Those are absolutely insane with massive bubbles, almost the size of the OG bubbles. You can see some of his jawbreakers here, some more in the little cups there, and some Yumas there. Next up, we have Reef Aquaculture Specialist. run by Fam and Andrew. They have 12 years of experience in the hobby. You can see these giant chalices they had. Definitely incredible showpieces for somebody's tank that would stand out in even a massive 6 or 8 foot aquarium. He had some beautiful torches, and he had quite a variety of not only golds but also some cotton candies, some green torches, as well as some of the grails and golds, of course. They are located in Florida, and they have an online store and also do Facebook auctions. You can see here some of the digitatas and a ton of Diablo Diacerius plates. They also had some chunky rainbow acan frags that were nice and plump, along with quite a few mini colonies there. You can see they had some really beautiful coloration to them. Some more torches up here, which is really what they're known for. They have a ton of torches, but they also had some really beautiful Gonioporas. You can see they have really fantastic extension, and they're all open. You can see also had some single polyp acans back here, along with some Bower Bankies, which are usually a little more uncommon. In this tank were some more Gonioporas with great extension to them. Some different varieties with some Bernardoporas on the right there. In this back section, there were some Acroporas, some Tenuouses, some PC Rainbows, all kinds of different varieties there. On the left side, even more torches. These were some of the more standard torches, whereas the other side was some of the more grails and golds, but they still were really beautiful nonetheless. Really huge, nice colony of Holy Grail Micromusa there, along with some beautiful hologram hammers, some gold hammers, some frog spawns and octo spawns. See the splattered hammers there, along with some digitatas, some anacroporas in the back, and this little mushroom rack here with some yumas, some very beautiful different rhodactyses, and some of the discosomas as well. This rack had some nice zoas and a bunch of different varieties on it. Next up is Pirates Reef. Ray has over 10 years of experience in the hobby, and even though he does have these beautiful Gonioporas, you can see the amaze balls there that he farms out. Really great success with those guys. You can see how happy they are in that flow. Some really beautiful cultured grails in the back, and some Bernardoporas and some other Gonis. He is definitely known for his SPS. You can see all the Monties here with some great coloration to them, but he is definitely known for his high-end stick game. He's one of the nicest Acropora collectors. He's got a bunch of different varieties, all different kinds, not just Acros, but even Monties as well. You can see some of the grafted Digis there, along with some other Acroporas. He's got some Princess Peach, some of the Pink Cadillac, some of the Shortcake, all different kinds of varieties from mid-grade to really high-end. He definitely has some of the nicest SPS in the hobby. Next up, we had Bio Reef. Max and Eddie over there have over 20 years of experience. They are located in Jacksonville, Florida, and they've got a storefront where they sell some of these beautiful OG bounce frags with some really nice big bubbles on them. Also had some beautiful Lobos over here with an interesting kind of orangish yellow and green coloration. Had some Grails, of course, and a big mama OG bounce next to that Scenerina there. Some more of the Grails, along with some mushrooms, some of the magic carpets and the jawbreakers, some rainbow chalices, as well as some acros there, some of the other torches, some chalices, a few more acros. This booth kind of had everything mixed together, which was very interesting and a little more unique. You get a different look to the tank for sure. That's a lot more of a mixture of coloration. This was separated out by price, so it made sense to do it that way. So you can kind of tell how much everything is without having to go through and ask, which I like. Here he had some of the hammers, as well as some more encrusters, some acans, some zoas, some of the Skittles Bomb Cyphastria there, some of the chalices, some more zoas, a few more acros as well in the back there. Next up, we have Reef Culture Co. Now, Josh and Chris over there have 5 years of experience, and they are from St. Cloud, Florida, and they definitely brought some fire to the show. You can see some of the Bernardiporas and Alveoporas there, as well as some of the Magic Carpet bounce mushrooms there, with some Blastos and Acans on that rack as well. Some nice chunky SPS frags over there on the back rack, as well as the middle rack and even the front rack. These pieces were super chunky and really well encrusted, and at $30 they had some really great deals. Nice little mini colony Acan there. On the right side of this tank were some Zoas, and one of the nicest pieces at this show, which was the TCK Insanity plate. That piece has super vivid red coloration and is definitely one of the most popular plate corals in the hobby right now. This frag was selling for $1,200, which is expensive, but it's a very rare piece that's super hard to find and you can actually frag. Also had some nice hallucination Zoas there, with some amazeballs Ganies, as well as some juggernaut mushrooms, some bounce mushrooms, some jawbreaker mushrooms as well. In the other tank, he had some more of the Euphilia, so a lot of the frog spawns and octo spawns, along with some of the torches. And he had quite a nice variety of colors of frog spawns and octo spawns. Some of the cotton candy and green torches there, with some beautiful schoolies up front, the Superman, as well as the double, and this nice interstellar bounce mushroom. This piece had some really nice bubbling that is a little more uncommon on the interstellars that usually have a little smaller bubbling. In this tank, he had some more of his torches. These were some of his Dragon Soul torches, as well as some of the other gold torches. You can see that nice Rapunzel colony in the back there, along with some of the banana grails. And this plate was also really beautiful. This one didn't have a name, but it was a beautiful Diosarius that was selling for $500, which almost seems like a bargain next to that TCK Insanity piece. There were also some nice ASD grails in the back here with some nice bright coloration. You can tell all the torches had really great extension, like this pink tip piece that was actually grafted. You could see down there the purple. He also had some of the dragon tamers, as well as some really nice hammers. You can see some of the holograms there, some nice chunkier pieces, some double and triple heads all throughout this tank were some really nice ones. Next up is Aquatic Creations. Scott and has over 5 years of experience, and they are located locally in Orlando, Florida. They do service and installations, and they also have a small farm where they grow out pieces like these torches. You can see some really nice holy grails here, some of the ASDs, some of the OGs, and really beautiful coloration in some of the dragon tamers and dragon soul torches that were pretty bright and also had good extension. All these torches were crammed in with each other, and they looked really good with all the contrasting colors. You can see you even had some top torches starting at $50, which is nice to see at a bigger show like this where corals are usually a little more expensive. This tank, side of the tank, had some of the hammers and frog spawns. You can see some of the pink ones and Scully, and a nice chunky wall hammer there. This Rapunzel was probably my favorite coral at the booth, with that neon green center and those pink tips. It really was a unique piece that was different from some of the other Rapunzels there. These grafted hammers were also one of the highlights of the booth, just because they were so unique. They also had a ton of different Ganies. They grew out a lot of Ganies there, as you can tell. These guys are super happy and chunky. They also had some Scolies along with some leathers on that left side there with some longer extension. You can see some of the Lobos and the Yuma there up front with some nice orangish and yellow coloration to it. Next up is Ocean Life Aquariums. Nick has been in the hobby for over 20 years and has a retail store in Houston, Texas. They specialize in aquaculture SPS, like these beautiful pieces, including this rainbow splice millie. But they've got pieces for everybody, from forest fire digis to milka stylos to some of these chunkier acro mini colonies here, like the green slimers. They really have a ton of different variety of not just colors, but also species of acroporas. Not just a bunch of tenuouses or a bunch of millies. There's a lot of different varieties of species, like some of the PC rainbows that really give you a nice look throughout the tank, and not like it's just a species specific tank, and gives you a little bit more variety than at some of the other aquaculture SPS vendors. These pieces are nice and chunky, and probably some of the biggest SPS frags at the show. He aquacultures all these at his store in Houston, Texas, and has been doing it for such a long time. He really has his methods down pat. You can tell he does a really good job growing these guys and keeping them nice and happy. This rainbow splice was definitely my favorite piece. He had a couple of them, and they were super chunky frags and had fantastic splicing. Usually you'll see frags that just have one color or another. Next up is Putang Reefs. Terrell has been in the hobby for 2 years and is located in Port St. Lucia, Florida. They specialize in aquaculture SPS, like these really cool Montipora undatas that had some nice yellowy red coloration to them. Also had some nice milliporas and other acroporas. They have a online store, and you can check out the different varieties of SPS corals. These frags were super well encrusted. They're growing off the plug and onto the racks that he pulled them off of. These pieces looked absolutely fantastic. They all had super great extension, and you can tell they're really happy in his system, which is a great sign. Not only that he is properly caring for these corals, but also that there's not any pests infecting anything, because everything's nice and happy. There's no die off, and you can really tell that he goes through the extra effort it takes to clean these frags and make sure that there's no pests that are going to transfer onto the consumer's tank. This is something that I understand because I've gone through the battles with the different pests like acro-eating flatworms, white bugs, where you have to go through a lot of treatments to really keep everything clean. So it's very impressive when I see another store doing this similar thing. Also had some chalices up front there, which some nice mini colonies, and some more on this left side that I love to see. Some Space Invader Pictinia, definitely one of my favorite corals in the back there. Some nice chunky Ghani frags that had some really great extension even in all that flow. He had some doughboy mushrooms up front here. Smaller frags, but that helps because they're a little bit more affordable. Also some Holy Grail torches in the back here, along with this chunky chalice mini colony, and some zoas on the right side here. Some different pallies and zoanthids, some of the Sunny D's, some of the Bloodshots, Fire and Ices. Nice variety of really chunky frags, probably the chunkiest at the show. You can see those Rastas have like 30 polyps, the Twizzlers over 50. Some of the Fruit Loops had 40 polyps, which is really cool to see, especially when you have a mixed one like that. Next up is Aquamania Aquarium store. It is run by Benjamin, and they are a new store in Winter Garden, Florida. They have freshwater and saltwater ponds that they specialize in, and you can see some of their corals here. They've got a ton of different encrusters, which I love to see. Some love for my encrusting corals. Also had some zoas on this rack here. Some more encrusters on this rack. Some Leptoceras, some Leptostrea, some Fabias as well. Some more zoas up on this rack here. Some of the Sunny D's, some of the Purple Heart zoas, some of the Red Death People Eater pallies, which are a little more old school, which is cool to see. Some of the Bam Bams, some more encrusters in the back here, some Stylostenellas, a lot of really nice encrusters. Next up we have Perfect Corals. Alex over there has 8 years of experience and is located in Miami, Florida. They're an online store, and they specialize in having affordable corals. You can see they have some really chunky pieces in the back there of zoas, as well as some nice larger acropora pieces there. You can see they have some really interesting colors. I really like these acro frags because of the colors they had. You can see they also had some trumpets and some dragon soul torches, some splattered hammers, a little cactus pavona up front there, some chunky Ghani mini colonies there with some interesting colors, some blues, some reds, a little yellow. They also had this anemone up front in a little cup, And in the other tank were some larger hammers and torches and Duncan colonies, as well as some big acro mini colonies here that were pretty well grown in. Some other various SPS, some Monties, some chalices, some digis. Even had a few Hydnophoras over on the left side there in the back, and some cabbage corals. There were some Merletti Blastos, some more Digitatas, some larger acro colonies, some Anacroporas, and those cabbage leathers there. Also had some Raja Rampage mini colonies that were pretty cool to see. Nice, well rounded off. In this tank, there were some Pictinias, some Favias, some Chalices, some more Favias in the back there with some really cool colorations, some Platygyras, and a few bigger pieces like the Jack-o'-lantern Lepto there, and some Favias, some Acan colonies, some Chalices, a few of the Acan Bowerbinkies, and this really cool looking Acan up front there, some of the Holy Grail Micromusas, and even a Leptostrea up front, a little mini colony there. This tank was some of the Microgonies. You can see some of the Laffy Taffies there, as well as some mushrooms and zoas and clove polyps in the back. There were also some of the green Ganies in the bottom there, and then some zoas on the right side of that tank. Starting at just $30, these chunky zoas were a really great deal. Even some encrusters and some acros at that price. Again, this show did have some really good deals, which was exciting to see because usually at a bigger show, prices can tend to be a little higher. Next up, we had the Delua booth with Coral Nerd, showcasing the corals in there. Anthony has been in the hobby for 15 years and is from Sydney, Australia. They, at Delua, make LED lights, protein skimmers, wave makers, and return pumps. And Coral Nerd had some really beautiful corals. You can see this bounce mushroom here and the Powerball bounce up front, as well as the OG bounce over here, and some of the grafted Setosas. These Recordias were really unique with the pink coloration to them, and these Ganies had some really nice extension and some interesting looking tips to them. You can see another bounce mushroom in the back there that was sold, and some more Ganies. He also had another tank that had some zoas in it, variety of leathers in the back there, along with some of the branching Cyphastria, which is cool to see, and some rainbow acans. This one was really nice in the back, along with some of the Favias that had some nice coloration to them. A little chalice there, but these chalices were definitely my favorite at his booth. These had some of the craziest color combos that I've ever seen. They had orange, green, blue, even some purple in them. There were also some other chalices in the back there with some nice color. Next up is Blue Water Reef-A-Palooza. Jimmy has 11 years in the hobby, and he is located in Daytona Beach, Florida. They've got a retail storefront where they sell saltwater corals and fish. They had some nice encrusting pieces here on the right side of this tank, with some meteor shower Cyphastrias, some hammer colonies and frags here with some bigger head pieces, a ton of different zoas, some really chunky different pieces there, nice large chalice. This blue with the green was very striking in person and had some nice contrast to it. Some of the Miami Hurricane Chalice, which is a classic there. Some of the Ganies, and another big chunky chalice colony over there. In this tank, there were some Ganies up front that were a little closed up, and some Acans behind there with some different frost skirts, some red skirts, some blues, some more Acan colonies and mini colonies there with some nice rainbows mixed in. Some soft corals like some sarsaparilla and some GSP. Also some clove polyps on the rack back there with some blastos. Also had some rainbow Monty mini colonies up front on the left side here. Next up is Deep Blue Aquarium. They are located in North Hollywood, California, and have a retail store. And Hong operates deep blue water reef over there, and he's been in the hobby for 8 years. As you can see, he brought some encrusters to this show, some Leptostreas, some Leptoceras as well. Up front there, some Pachycyrus, some Freacaire Pavona, and some of the soft corals. Of course, you gotta have Xenia and some Kenya trees, some bird's nests and stylos, some Captain Jerks in the back there. This tank had some Gorgonias, as long as some Pavonas, some stylos, some candy canes, some bird's nests, some Montes over on this rack with some Zoas, some Astriopora, some Montes, and a few mushrooms in the back there. This one had some jack-o'-lantern leptos, this cool fused Leptoceras, and some Favites, some burning banana stylostenellas, and even some Montes. In this tank were some Zoas and Montes mostly, with a few chalices. And the backside were some more leptos, some Galaxia. In the other tank here, there's some really beautiful and unique yellow Favias. Yellow is a color that's a little harder to find. Some Ganis as well as some Montes. Up front were some plate corals and these Petunias. Some of the Doughboy bounces and Powerball bounce mushrooms that they grow out there. You can see there's a nice collection of those guys there, as well as some frog spawns and SPS up in the front of that tank. Over here on this side of the tank were some nice rainbow Ganis, as well as some of the other Zoas that they had. You can see the Holy Grail torch there, along with some of the meat corals and trachees. Some more Zoas. These were some of the higher end Zoas on this tank. Some of the speckled cracks, as well as some of the bloodshots, some of the Grandmaster cracks, some AOIs. A lot of really nice pieces on this rack here. Also had some more bounce mushrooms, the magic carpet mushrooms, and some Fabias, along with some splattered hammers that had some really vibrant hues to them. Some more trachees up front here. These pieces were really big and super fluffed up. This plate coral had some really cool coloration to it, and you can see some more of the Doughboy mushroom there with some babies on that tile, some chunky SPS frags, some PC rainbows, some highlighter tip acros, as well as some millies and some anaacroporas in the back there. The next tank is going to be a ton of different encrusters, some Hydnophoras, some Xenia, some Stylostenellas, some Montoporas, even some chalices, or some Cyphastrias, some more Leptoceras, a few bird's nests mixed in, and some Zoas up front. There were also some pretty cool encrusting Montes in this section with some nice coloration.
All right, guys, so this is a pretty long video. This show was absolutely massive. I hope you guys enjoyed part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, where we go through the other half of the show. It has been a pretty late night trying to get this video out for you guys. It is currently midnight, and we are getting ready to post the video, so I hope you guys enjoy it. The show hasn't even ended yet, so I really hope you guys get a special look at the show before it's even over. Make sure to go down and subscribe so you get alerted when we drop part 2. And also leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and leave a comment down below with what your favorite coral was. And I will see you guys in part 2.